Welcome. Every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. This is where we are, right here on Love 101 FM, the family station. Welcome to another week here inside the program, The Mailbox, designed for men, hosted by men with guests who are men. I am Courtney Morrison, and with me is my regular co-host, Kevin Bailey. Kevin?
That's right, Courtney. Indeed, it's a great day. This is the day that the Lord has made. And man a man, we dip on the corner from Moran Point in the grill. So ensure, shout up your brethren them. Let them know that the mailbox is here. We've been having a very stimulating conversation, discussion. We're looking at the emotionally abused husband. Can you believe that? And we are more accustomed to looking at the emotionally abused wife or woman. And since this is the mailbox, this is where we challenge, encourage, and empower men. We want to spend some time and look at is it true there are some husbands that are abused emotionally? Is it easier for the husband, therefore, to walk away from an abusive relationship than his wife? Does the pattern of an emotionally abused husband look similar to that of an emotionally abused wife? And when does emotional abuse comes upon a husband, what does it look like? And where can the husband get help being the man, the embarrassment, the shame, all of those things? Well, I'm so very happy, gentlemen, that we have some really qualified men in our midst. We have Karim Ayat, Christian author of Staying Married, Becoming One Flesh. He's husband of one wife for over 20 years. Then we have Michelle Hunt, relationship counselor and psychosexual therapist. He's director at Therapy for You in Atlanta, Georgia. And we will be joined also by Dr. Barry Hall, senior pastor at Ecclesia Bible Fellowship. He's husband as well and father. So we have some tremendous guests in our midst. Gentlemen, welcome to the mailbox.
Oh, welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Here in Karim Hayat there and Michelle Hunt. So we're excited about today's program. It's gonna be one to remember. So, man and man, please encourage the other men to listen up. Send your feedback or questions on Facebook. A Facebook page at Love 101 FM, where we are live. Yes, we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. Leave your comments via our WhatsApp line at 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. Or you can give us a call on our studio lines at 876-968-8327. Gentlemen, man on man, please call in. You can ask any questions, make a comment. That's on 876-968-8327. Ladies, we appreciate your company, but remember, do not call in. Encourage the men to call in. This is their space. However, you can interact with us by going using the WhatsApp, make a comment on our WhatsApp line or on our Facebook page. So females, we appreciate you. Thank you so very much. But remember, do not call us or send us any voice note. Encourage the man them to do so. We're joined Dr. Barry Hall, friend and pastor and counselor. Dr. Hall, welcome to the mailbox. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Courtney, we have a compliment of some great man in the place. You must feel very special that you have distinguished gentlemen joining you like this, Courtney.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do. And, there is the question also that I'd have loved to ask. Who is an emotionally abused husband? Some people say, do they exist? That's a question you hear out there every day. I sent a message out and somebody says to me, and you can imagine it's not a man who said this, What a topic to discuss. So we want to get into it today. We want to hear, are our men being emotionally abused? Why are our men hurting? Maybe a big question. Why are they causing hurt? Could it be that this is a seat of the problems? So, do you think you know a husband who is a victim of emotional abuse? Can his children be a part of this effect too? Well, we will only find out on the other side of this break, right here inside the mailbox. We'll take a break and we'll be right back after this.
If ever there was a time to take care of your mental health, it is now.
Now, when your physical health so clearly impacts your emotional health.
Now, when we need to talk and listen to each other.
Now, when supporting each other means survival.
Now, in a time of COVID-19.
Speak up.
Speak now.
Beat COVID-19.
Call 888 New Life, 639-5433.
Life comes at you fast and it can hit hard. Apply for the Credit Union Prepaid MasterCard from C&WJ with chip and PIN protection. Need a card with a personal line of credit for emergencies? We have that. Need a card you can use to shop online for that must-have item? We have that. The community and workers of Jamaica Prepaid MasterCard. All the convenience of a MasterCard. Discover the benefits of belonging.
Love 101, the family station, invites you to listen and watch the National Youth Congress of the New Testament Church of God in Jamaica under the theme, The Word, Love, Follow, Share, with sessions Friday, April 9 at 6 p.m., Saturday, April 10 at 10 a.m. with Teens and Children's Village and more, and Sunday, April 11 at 2 p.m. This Saturday, April 10, Love 101 invites you to listen via Love 101 FM radio and watch on the social media pages of Love 101 FM and the New Testament Church of God for Worship Fest, featuring Anique Morris, Othniel Lamont, Latoya HD, Ryan Davis, and Minister Kevin Downswell. It's Worship Fest, live on Love 101, this Saturday, April 10 at 6 p.m. Worship Fest and the National Youth Congress 2021 is brought to you by the New Testament Church of God in Jamaica and will be on the family station, Love 101.
I am a man, yes. Strong man, integrity man. I am a man. I am a man. I am a man.
Welcome back to the mailbox on Love 101 FM, your family station. I'm Kevin Bailey. Courtney Morrison is in the place. Today, inside the mailbox, we'll be discussing the emotionally abused husband with our very special guests, Dr. Barry Hall, Karim Hyatt, and Michelle Hunt. And so we want to really do some serious conversation. This is indeed an interesting topic. We encourage the man and man them to listen out. But we have to do our usual shout out, Courtney. So we have to let them know, man in the place. So after 2, 1, 2, Monday!
And Kevin, some really big men as well, you know, professionals. So we want to hear from them as well. We have a new segment for those who have been listening regularly to our mailbox. There's a new segment that's being introduced today. We call it The Draft. And this segment is where we preliminary open the way to our main segment as we focus on the emotionally abused husband. Here are some questions that we would like to ask our guests. What does it mean to you when you hear this? Women are not to exercise authority over men. What does that mean to you? Women are not to exercise authority over men. The second question is, how much impact should the wife have on her husband? And the third question, do you think wives are still submissive to their husband? I want to start with Sir Marshall Hunt. He's not going to be spending all day with us today. So you heard the question. What does
Listen, those are some interesting. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's actually my pleasure being on here with you guys. So, but those questions are quite interesting questions that you've asked, and I think I want to go with the second one first, which is you asked of whether or not how much influence does a wife have over her husband, and I think being a therapist and seeing couples day in and day out, it's really interesting that we don't separate what men do from what women do when it comes to emotionality. I think we're raised in a society, whether it's in Jamaica, whether it's in the UK and the US, where somehow men's emotional ability is always sedated, and it's limited to displaying anger and contempt, and we're not really exposed or encouraged to see or to express other emotions. I think when we get into that place of saying what a wife should do or what a husband should do, we're actually invoking some of those same rules that we were raised with. So I say, to answer that question, men should have as much influence on his wife as the wife has on her husband. It should be equal. Obviously, there's some situations where it may not be equal. For example, finances, for example, or sort of like being at home with the kids, or doing some other chores that may just you know where your skill set is. But I think in general, we need to move away from a wife should do this and a husband should do that. Because when we do that, we're encouraging emotional disfranchisation that happens. And that's what leads to the topic we're discussing right now, which is, can husbands actually be emotionally abused? And the answer to that is absolutely yes.
It's interesting to hear you speak to that, Sir Hunt. Just today, I spoke with a lawyer, a female lawyer, and the same questions were being raised, what are we talking about when we talk about the emotional abuse male? What is even more difficult is physical abuse versus emotional abuse. Should there be a versus? Does one carry a greater impact than the other? And if so, what's happening? But the other questions still remain, Do you think wives are still submissive to husbands? Is there such a thing?
That's another very interesting topic. So there's some wives and husbands who believe that the wife should be submissive to the husband. I think it's 2020 right now. We've seen enough shows. We've been alive enough to know that doesn't actually exist for a lot of couples. This idea of submissiveness has actually moved away from traditionally what we've known submissiveness to be, and it's evolved into something else. It's evolved into what are you bringing to the table versus what I bringing to the table, and whoever is bringing less to the table gets less out of it. That's usually how I see relationships working today, and I think this idea of submissiveness is almost it's a term that really doesn't hold well in the society in which we're raising children and families now. So to answer that, from my personal perspective, I don't think it's just a submissiveness if it's not going two ways. A wife can be as submissive to her husband as a husband can be to the wife. That's a very interesting dichotomy, because we talk about this as if there's a broad, blanket for everyone. And obviously relationships are different. And some people like that submissiveness. And then you might find couples where, on the outside looking in, it seems like one partner is more submissive than the other. But then when it comes to the sexuality and in the bedroom, it's a complete turnaround. And that's a trade-off that couples will decide to have in their own relationship, which other people aren't privy to. So I think that has to come into play when we talk about what submissive actually is.
Let's bring in the other guests, Karim Hart and Dr. Barry Hall. Anything that Sir Hunt spoke to that any one of you want to comment on, or the question in themselves? This is interesting. I'm loving this discussion. I hear so much in what Michelle has just said. Dr. Barry Hall, you care to comment?
Um, um, let me set the precedence before I am a believer. I affirm everything that the scripture says. I believe in God holistically, and I believe that the Bible is our final authority and it gives us full guidance how to live. With that in mind, and I'm not being apologetic, I'm just telling you where I stand. With that in mind, I can't agree with him on the idea of submission being old-fashioned. I think for a long time and for too long, we misunderstand what submission means. And I don't believe either that there are not distinct roles given to male and female. Again, the scripture is very clear on that. If you read Titus, you will see that when Paul sent out Titus, there were some things that were not right. And I know people went jump on and say, okay, well, it's a Hebrew society where it was male dominant. That might have been. The fact is that it is a God who created the world that spoke, not Paul or Titus. So the God who put everything in order made certain decrees that he found is essential to how we live, for us to live properly. So there are rules. The rules don't mean that somebody is subservient or not at the same value. This is some of the bad teachings we have had. Nor does submission mean a bad thing. Sir Hugh, if he works with a company, submits to the authority of his boss. Is that a bad thing? Or is it because his boss has a specific role to play? Does it mean that his boss is more of a man than he is? Or worse, if it's a woman, if she's more of a man than he is. No, it does not reflect that at all. It is simply a reflection of the role that she's to play. And our understanding of this role leads us to understand that, and the Bible spells it out. How is a husband supposed to live? Husband is supposed to be provider, protector, and the one who loves his wife. And how is the woman supposed to respond? In submission. Now, this goes all the way back to Genesis. I'm not going to get into that. The topic is something else, so I won't ride that out. Suffice to say, though, that the Bible is very clear that in relationships, for them to work, there needs to be an established head in any organization, in anything where you have more than one person. Nature itself teaches us that anything with two heads is a monster. So for things to operate properly, without hiccups, is that we understand our roles and function in the capacity of those roles. The biblical role of authority is not one where the man dominates his wife. That's not what we see in scripture. Tall. But still he's called to lead, and he's called to protect, and he's called to provide. And there are clear roles in scripture. We read Titus chapter 2. We see where Paul instructs Titus to tell the older woman to teach the younger woman to do certain things, and to teach the younger men how to do certain things. So it is critical that we fulfill these roles. Now, does it mean that a man can't cook or anything like that? No, that's not what it is. It's meaning. But within the function of the household, roles must be laid out. Or we're going to run across.
We have a limited time with this section, so I want to move on. Probably what you'd have helped us with is to give us a definition of submission. I think those who are listening in, because we do sometimes have a wrong idea that it means dominating. Right. Something that Sir Marshall said, though, would the scripture allude to it, or what is the correct interpretation when it says in Ephesians 5, I think it's either verse 19 or 21, that says submitting one to another? That submissiveness occurs either way, or is it talking about a particular order? I say Karim shaking his head.
It is speaking about a particular order, because in the same passage it talks about children submit to parents. Now, if it is mutual submission, then how would the parent have authority over their children? And the word submission too, contextually, it means one who's of a higher rank. So it is a recognition of the role that one is playing. And children must recognize that their parents are set in authority over them, or else we have chaos in the household.
Okay. I just want to add something before Karen comes. Just something really quickly. I respect everything that the good doctor has said. I think it comes from a very distinct perspective, which is a biblical perspective, which is, that works perfectly. But we do live in a world where not everyone has that perspective. And I think there has to be some allowances for people who don't think in the context of biblical understandings or biblical teachings. That's just to say, the other thing that's really important to know is when we talk about submission, by the definition of submission, there is no submission without dominance. So there are two sides of one coin. If someone's being submissive, it means that someone else is being dominant. So I just want to get that.
Dominant, but somebody else is in charge.
AKA being dominant.
No.
Not domineering. Right?
Right. I mean, there's variations of what
has to do with responsibility.
Kareem, go on.
Responsibility, not taking
off.
So
domineering and what it means to be dominant. I think we probably need to do it. I want to give Karim a chance to start before we go into the next section, because we're really talking today about their emotional abuse husband, but we know Michelle has to leave. So we want to get in some of the things. Help here. Karim, go ahead.
Very, very interesting topic, that word submission. And as a Christian author, I have to, speak from the Bible also. The thing is, in today's society, when you hear the word submission from a societal standpoint, everybody screams. But if you think about it the way God created marriage, because He's the one who created marriage, so He created it with things for us to follow. What He's saying is, and I'm not sure if women are listening, but submission means submitting to the spiritual leadership of your husband. It's not submitting to rulership of your husband. And there's a difference. And I think that's what's causing a lot of times where there's a rebellion, because it's, they're thinking from a standpoint of, oh, I'm being ruled. And that's not what it is. It's from a standpoint of being led spiritually. So it's kind of like, if you picture, God is leading the husband and the husband is leading the wife. That's the hierarchy that God, created marriage to be. So it's a lot of men, of course, I know, they think it's to rule, but it's not. And a lot of women are afraid of being ruled, but it's not. So if it's followed the right way, which is spiritual leadership, spiritual covering, then if the man loves his wife like Christ loved the church, like God said, and if the woman submits to the husband's spiritual leadership, it works. But it has to be both ways.
I see, Sir Hunt. Thank you very much, Karim. I see Sir Hunt saying he has to go. This is really interesting. You know what we probably have to do, Kevin? And I hope that we can do. Invite these three gentlemen that we speak to the issue of submission. Men and submission and their wives. Yes.
Courtney, before he goes, can Michelle just share a little about the emotionally abused husband, if you can?
Yes, I was just about to do that.
Absolutely. I'll go really quickly. And the only reason I'm leaving is I have a couple that I'm seeing in about 5 minutes. But the emotional abuse husband is one that's underrepresented and undervalued. I think there is an understanding that men sometimes don't express their emotions in the same way that women do, and oftentimes they don't get an opportunity to actually speak out about being emotionally abused or being emotionally distressed. which I think is something else that happens, which we don't get to talk about. So I would love to come back and actually talk a little bit more about how that works and how I see it showing up in couples. And I wish you guys great. I'm sure the conversation is going to be great. I'll have to come back and watch this later.
Great to have you, Sir Michelle Hunt. We're really hoping to get you back another time when you are fully available.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Bless you. Please greet those couple. So Dr. Barry Hall and Sir Karim had, we have another section too. That was interesting. And I believe we need to probably delve a little bit more in it, but we really want to deal with the topic of emotional abused husband, but we also have another topic called our favorite folder. Kev, if you look at this favorite folder, help me with this one.
So inside favorite folder, and we definitely will have to come back to some of these conversations so that we can spend some time processing as well. The favorite folder, we're talking about men who use pills and other supplements to help boost his libido, his sex drive. What's your perspective on this, gentlemen? Men who use pills and other supplements to help boost his sex drive, his libido, things not working as efficient and effective as he would love it to be. Sometimes it starts with men who are very young. At another time, it's a transition. By the time you reach my age, you think about it often, but you're having challenges. Gentlemen, help us and our audience to understand it. Is it okay, for men to use pills and other supplements to boost the sex drive? Dr. Barry
Kevin,
Hall.
are we going to be bringing into this discussion? We talk about Magnum, we talk about Strong Back, we talk about all those things. So Dr. Barry Hall and Karen, we wanted to carry in the Jamaican context in all of this as well. You know, it's not just pill them use. There are so many drinks out there that you hear. Also, you know that why I want to say call some of them names. Doc, go ahead.
Unless it is going to impose dangers to one's health, I really don't see anything wrong with it. However, a lot of the times, because you see, it's not so much the men like Kevin and I who are buying these things, you know, it's the younger people getting all sorts of things and stuff. You just watch a juice man when him come and see who first reach. All right.
Yes.
The truth is, what you'd ask them, they have no problem with their sexual prowess, but there is a mental picture that they have that has been brought about by society that dictates to them that they should leave a lady in the throes of pain, and when she cries out and when she's in pain and all of that, then he's doing his stuff good. I think, and I've said it, I do some marital counseling and premarital counseling, and it's one of the things that the church won't touch. And I know we're not speaking, well, you're love, so you have to be speaking from that standpoint also. Our boys are not taught how to love women. Nobody teaches and speaks on the subject of how to make love. It's a taboo thing. Man and man no need nobody to tell them things. We understand that. Oh, man and man. You see, but he has no clue, you know. And this is why very often when they get married, in the first 3 minutes, the honeymoon over. You know, or there's a no-show, worse. And it does severe damage. It does severe damage to his mental psyche. Now, if somebody had sat him down and talked to him before, even our women really don't know what to expect from sex. Nobody teaches it a taboo subject, as I say, and people like Kevin and so who are counselors and come to church, you know, they do try to touch it, but them kind of draw back sometimes, you know, but the church needs to hear it in plain language. People need to hear it in plain language. so that we can understand what it means to love a woman. How do you make love? You know, I remember a show came out some years ago, and I finished it because, you know, I don't want to take up too much of the time. Can't remember, it's a Jamaican movie. And in the Jamaican movie, the lady was a helper who fantasized about making love to her boss because she used to see him do it. And she and the local Rastaman, who was a gardener, used to have sex and used to just come in and just draw off her clothes and have sex with her. And, you know, she could tell him stop. So he started to do it with the boss wife. The boss wife said to him one night, you know, play with my breast and something. And him said, oh, man and a baby. You see, it's a sort of idea we have, you know, we explore and how far to go and how we should understand. But I finished there.
Thank
those
you, Dr.
questions
Hall.
you asked are really questions.
No, really appreciate that. And I know it seems that we're getting food for so many other programs, you know, in this time. So your perspective, brother Ayat, yes, your perspective on this, yeah.
You know, of course, you know, when you reach a certain age as a man, your body is not the same, your endurance is not the same, you know. So like my brother here said before, Pastor, I agree. I mean, there's nothing wrong with those things to help, but I think the greatest booster is your spouse. But if you have to, you really have to, you know, use those things. Just make sure that it's something that is, the side effects are not there, you know, because that's another thing you have to be careful of. You know, you have to take care of your body too. So, you know, as much as there's nothing wrong with it, you have to still be careful of what. I remember my grandfather used to boil something called strongback. I've never had it before. I don't know what it's for, but you know, if it's something that is natural and it's something that is going to help you, yes, by all means. You know, so that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Mix up the peanut and the oats, Sir Hyatt, and a number of other things, and they go and they have some oysters. You see, you know, I remember one evening a youngster asked me, you know, Pastor, should I pray or should I pray for you? Should I pray for endurance or should I pray for guidance? And it was something else. I'm one of those who you know, we think about these stuff, and sex really is a topic that the church really talks about very. We don't talk about it much, yet it is one of the biggest issues that exists for the church, and we need to ensure that we start talking more about it to our youngsters. The late Dr. Miles Monroe said it, that many of our youngsters don't hear it from church, so they go outside to explore for it, and it's when they have messed up that they come running to the church to be restored and to for us to redeem and try to fix these issues. And so men who are taking those supplements and stuff, please remember your wives. But can I ask a question now that it came to my mind? Do some of our women encourage it? Because, you know, there are some things that I see advertised on our television. I don't know. You men tell me in a minute. Are these being encouraged by a woman as well?
If they're what?
If these supplements and for our men, no man, for the men, you need to build up yourself, you know, and do something.
Some women will challenge men to do that, yes.
Yeah, I believe so too.
Yes. In a blink of an eye.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen, those who are watching, those who are by Facebook Live, and those who are listening to us on radio, Love 101. It's 4 minutes past 6 in the evening. You're listening to the program, The Mailbox. We have with us Dr. Barry Hall and with us Christian author Karim Hyatt. We had with us earlier psychosexual therapist Mr. Marshall Hunt, but he had to leave because he couldn't stay with us for the entire day. Men who use pills and other implements to help boost their libido. Listeners, remember you get to participate by leaving your comments via our WhatsApp line at 876-997-3125 or give us a call on our studio lines at 876, sorry, 968-8327. The number again, 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. Also remember, the phone lines are open right throughout the programs. Men, listen, men, remember call. The phone lines are open right throughout the program. And we're live on Facebook and YouTube. We're getting into the main segment now, Kevin. Come on, we're ready for this one.
Yes. Courtney, and as we continue, just some feedback on our page. Can the woman be submissive if the man is not playing his role in the home? Somebody is asking. Hello, I'm listening well to the discussion. Men need to rise up and play their God-given role. No one should abuse anyone. God is depending on the men as the spiritual head of the family. But some of them and others, they are miserable. And so rise up, men. We love you, but no dictatorship. Thank you so much. One person also says, man and man, church people don't talk about sex. Them say is sin. Stephanie says sin. So the question is, Dr. Barry Hall, and we know we have to come back to some of these conversations, but from your perspective, where you sit as pastor, counselor, and as man, are men, are husbands being emotionally abused in their relationship? Do you think it exists, or this is just a figment of our imagination, Dr. Barry Howell? Your perspective.
You know, yesterday when I got the call and I heard that you asked, I thought to myself, I really don't believe in this thing about prophetic ministry, you know. But you know, I wondered if you were, because I saw the headlines in the paper yesterday, Star, and it was about this very topic where a security guard was lamenting that he had 4 children and something happened and they needed to get tested. And 3 of the 4 were not his. And the one he thought might not have been his was the only one that was his. You know, wow. What to do? You know, how do you walk away from a situation like that? The embassy, because of their insistence now on paternity tests, has revealed that up to only 70% of the men or 30% are finding out then that the children that they're reared and thought was theirs were not theirs.
It's now at 42%, Dr. Barrow.
Okay, so then you see, so it's growing. And
it's growing. It has moved from 33 up to 40%.
And the only reason why that is happening is because we are now able to do the test, and more people are doing the test. So that's one aspect of emotional abuse. There's another aspect that a lot of ladies don't even consider for it to be emotional abuse: withholding sex. Withholding sex.
Wow.
It's emotional abuse also when she determined, you know, listen, shop clothes, as the saying goes. You know, so where must he go shopping? Where is he going to buy? Where is from? You know, it's a serious thing, but we have that. We have ladies who...
But he's being punished, Dr. Hall. He's being punished. Is that not so? He's not to go to any shop. He's to stay home. Is that not how it works?
The Bible says that her body does not belong to her, but her husband, and the same way with him. And so they must not withhold themselves from each other, except by agreement. No, you know, the church responsible for a lot of that withholding, especially at this time of year, where all of them gone on 40 days fasting, and them come home and say, just remember it's fasting time, you know. And what is the man to do in 40 days, you know? So there's that kind of emotional abuse. There's emotional abuse where it comes with malice, where it comes with saying hurtful things. And the fact is that where I have seen emotional abuse at its highest is amongst men who try the hardest to please their spouses.
True.
Unfortunately, that's where I see it. and they don't have a clue how to respond. How do you turn off your love from a child that you have grown for 17 years thinking is yours? What do you do when you come home and your wife is in bed with somebody else? How do you handle it when you hear that your wife is in a relationship with someone else? You know, I've had to deal with that, with issues with a lot of men, more than you would care to think. The thing is that men are seen as weak. Oh, man is man. Man must just man up and walk. Oh, Lord, the girl I'm going. How do you stop loving? How do you turn off love? How do you stop that emotion from coming back and hurting you? You know, those are a lot of things that happen. And the stories that are told. You know, everybody is sympathetic towards woman because man wicked. You know, there's a saying, man bad. You know, I don't know. You know, I heard it first with Kevin when Lucy tells a man bad. But and I'm joking, but what women love to say. And I always respond to them by saying, then who bad with? You know, if man's so bad, who bad with? And now we're discovering that the polls are showing that it's 50-50. I want to dare say it's probably even higher on the other side. But we're not willing to hear that. Women are not willing to see that. It's nothing for a woman to turn off emotionally from her husband. Stop talking to him, malice him, the dinner on the table. Him can't hug her up, him can't touch her. She just shuts down. She just shuts down. She just shuts down. And he's left there to do what?
Yeah. Do it himself. After him not have Finn. Karim, we want to bring you into this, you know. Define what you think is an emotionally abused husband. What does he look like? How does he respond? What's happening with the man that we define as emotional abuse? So if you can define and tell us what he looks like and what should be his response, you know?
Well, yeah. Before I go into that, let me just piggyback a little on my brother, what he said earlier. One of the biggest challenges that men have when it come on to that emotional abuse situation is that, yes, we are taught by society that we should be tough, yes. And, you know, when you think about man, you think about strength and not weak. If you talk about the way you feel and how you're being treated, you're not a man. And so it's a lot of pressure on men to open up, so to speak. So typically, they hold it in. So, but I was looking at a research that shows that 48.8% of men experience emotional abuse. And the difference is that when a woman will open up and talk about it, a man won't because of pride. So now he pen these things up inside, and the way he reacts to these things and how he behaves, what you'll see is he's withdrawing. He's not like talking so much. He's not operating in the way how God said he should operate as a husband, which is to be the spiritual leader. So he backs down from that because of the emotional abuse that he's facing. So, you know, men were made to be leaders. And if you feel like you're not being treated the way you're supposed to be treated as a husband, you know, respect is gone, then you don't feel like you can lead. And that's one of the biggest behaviors that you see in a man who is not feeling like he's getting the respect that he needs.
Just wanted to pause there a bit, Karen.
Yeah.
We're getting some serious feedback. Does anyone have a radio in their proximity or anything on that could be giving us that feedback? No?
I don't really have one in my area.
Okay. Yeah, just to double check, and hopefully it went away, but it came back. So let's hope that we sort that out as well.
Here's something I want to ask. When one person is speaking, if we could mute our mics, the other individual mute their mic so we can get an idea probably where it is coming from. But it's quite loud now than it was before. Did someone mute their mics? Who mute their mic? because the feedback is completely gone.
I'm going to tell you. You hearing it now?
No, I don't hear it.
So.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's try to continue. And so the emotionally abused husband, one of the questions, Kevin, that I presented and posed to someone, didn't even know we were going to really be doing this topic, when I was speaking to the individual. Are our men hurting from emotions that we can't, that sometimes we can't emote or we are not doing because of societal norms and expectations that if a man emotes, he is being feminine, is responding in a way that he shouldn't. He's strong, he's tough, he shouldn't cry. I attended a Zoom meeting on the weekend, and one of the complaints was women are so emotionally abused and verbally abused by men. Does verbal abuse does emotional abuse have its genesis in verbal abuse? And by extension, could that also, and this is not justification, it's a question, could that be by virtue of extension that our men become physical and we are displaying some form of mental illness, not necessarily disorders, that needs to be addressed?
So the question is a man reacting to verbal abuse by being physical?
Yes.
I mean, it is possible, as much as it's not the right way to react to it. But
correct.
that could, drive a man who is not in control, who will react that way. Yes, I think, But the thing to do is to exercise restraint, because you can overcome the emotional abuse without becoming physical, because it's wrong. So yes, the answer is yes. It can drive you to feeling like you want to do that, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to react that way.
And gentlemen, what do we do? What advice would you give? What are some of the solutions to men who find themselves in this situation where they're abused emotionally? Dr. Hall, probably we need a conversation. No, we're starting it. But what would you say to men who find themselves in this situation? What should they do? What are some of the strategies, coping mechanisms? Please share with us.
Is one straight strategy: seek help. But don't seek help from unqualified people. Your friend on the corner not going to help you because he don't know what to tell you. I give an example quickly. I got a call 3 o'clock one morning from somebody. I don't even know why I answered the phone, because I don't normally answer the phone if it rings at that time. But 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a telephone call and I answered. It was a friend of mine. I mean, this man was broken. Asked me to come over there at 3 o'clock in the morning. Left, went over to see him at 3 o'clock in the morning. After much prayer, I thought he would not have asked me if he did needed the help. Found out that his wife had been sleeping around. And the struggle was they were expecting their first child. And the pregnancy is in line with the time that she started to sleep around. This is a man, they've been married for a while, nothing happened, and then boom, this and that happens at the same time. Man was completely broken. And by the time I got there, 2 other friends were there. And, they would say what most men on the street were telling: just man up your man and be strong, be strong. How do you be strong in a time like this? If it was a woman, her friends come and they hug, they cry with her, they support her emotionally and do all of that. But men don't do that. Men can't give another man a hug like that. You ever see how men hug it? It's like them going to fight. It's ingrained from youth. My father, when I was age 3, I used to run and meet him every evening, jump up in his hand, and he would hug up the two of us and hold us up. And then one evening when I run, him pick up my sister and him look at me and him stop me and him say, listen, men don't hug up, men shake hands. And at the extreme shaking my hand, you know, so after the first week, I stopped running to meet him. You know, the next time my father hugged me, I never stopped until the day he died, was 22 years later. He found that it was all right to hug. We don't bring up our boys and express love. The fact that we are so desperate in Jamaica for the male role model in a lot of the households. In a lot of these households, the ladies are resentful to the children because the children represent the father that was uncaring, that was not committed, that left them on their own. And so we have the struggle of you coming like your old dirty papa. Those are things that boys grow up with. And the resentment that they have for their mothers very often is transferred in their marital relationship because they have not learned how to deal with it. And who is going to show them? Who's going to help them with it? You know, so we have to find a way, you know, where we start rescuing our boys from their 9, 10. You know, the church especially is gifted towards this, are geared towards it, even though they don't. You know, single women in our churches, families need to start adopting some of these boys. You know, bring him, you have other son, bring him over. Make him spend an evening with you, you know, talk to him about manly things, relate to him in a way that he sees, because he doesn't have that. So I'm going to find it on the street corner, and that's where he builds his relationship. And nobody there can help him. You know, a man will palm off something and say, oh, before you, or a shooter, say, oh, with a bus head. And that's what is being now reflected in our society, because our men were never geared to love. Them don't understand their emotions. Them don't know how to check it. Them don't know what to do with it. They're hurting and they don't know who to go to. You know, and sometimes all it really wants is a comforting hug and encouragement from another man. You know,
thank you, Dr.
We get so homophobic that we think we interpret everything in light of that. We have to move past that. We have to move past
I know so much more could come about. Oh, looking at our time, Brother Hyatt, share with us from where you sit. You know, what can we do to help our men to be able to get help, to feel safe, so that they can recognize they're human beings, they're hurting. How do we find strategies, coping mechanisms, skill set, you know, to help our men? Share with us on that. I think you're muted still. If you could have mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Still up? Yeah, sure.
Yes. From a practical standpoint, you know, one thing that I realize is, and it's in the same line of what my brother was saying, is us men, we need support groups, for example, you know, other godly men that we can turn to, you know, talk about situations in a safe, you know, trusted environment. Because a lot of times what end up happening is that we don't open up, and we, as men, and we don't operate the way we're supposed to operate because of that. Are you still hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Yeah. So, and of course, seek godly counseling. That's very important. Not just any counseling, but godly counseling from a professional godly counselor, because you're dealing with a lot of issues that you are on your own, and you will explode as a man. So open up to a godly counselor, but also have like a group of other godly men that you can pray with, or, you know, give you godly advice, so to speak. You know, and you have to be careful, because you can't talk to anybody about your situation. Just use wisdom. But yeah, those two things are needed. And for the young men growing up, yeah, they need actual love. And like my brother said, the hugs that's needed to show love. It's something that's not something that men are used to right now. So that's something that they need to growing up as young men, growing up into adults, and growing up into as husbands, so that they'll understand that it's okay to get that love from another brother. Because society's letting men feel like they can't get love from another brother, but God said we should love each other. So it is needed, that training for young men growing up to understand that it's okay to open up to another brother and have that love shown, so that when you're dealing with these issues, you're not dealing with them on your own. So, godly counseling is the number one thing, but also have a support group of men around you who could pray with you.
Really interesting to hear you. Thank you, Sir Hyatt, because there are a number of groups that have been that are opening up. There's one that I join once a month on a Thursday night, Safe Space for Married Men. That just opens up to all that is happening, and it's a trusted space. I believe the more we re-educate, the more we re-socialize our men, and the church has to ensure that they are playing an essential role in this, because remember, apart from those who are in church, we're also having difficulties with those outside of church. And I think we need to reach all of these men. And so we need to do this. We need to ensure that, as you said, that there's that safe space.
Yeah.
I see Mario Scott commenting and saying, sometime a good man don't get a good wife. Yes, you also have abusive wives. You're not working enough money. You work less. These are some of the words that affect the psyche of a man. Say Tom next door earn more than you, and look how him buy a car for him wife. We need a little bit more educating that men do also. They're more sensitive than they say. Them don't want birthday cards. They're not sentimental, but that is actually almost a facade. Malva Harris McPherson saying, great topic. It is wrong, but sometimes men react, especially when another man in play or she embarrassed him in front of others. Most women, when their paycheck is bigger, not taking no talk. What if he's not manning up to his responsibility? Shop have to lock, one person says.
Marlene Da Costa says that's why we have so much murder. Maria Scott said, good evening, everyone, on Mailbox Program. Your program very interesting, informative. Mail big ups, share with my family members, and I hope they will tune in. Wayne Campbell says, men have little or no emotional support in the society. The emotionally challenged boy will become an emotional challenged man. There's a brokenness regarding relationships. Teach the young men how to take care of a lady. Teach them who are in churches, in colleges, even in schools. And Dorothy says, my former lecturer never disappoint. Good argument, Dr. Hall, on behalf of men. Hope one day a female will be able to share the views of women. So very interesting. I know, my gosh, time is done on us. But gentlemen, your final...
a little bit late. She didn't hear Michelle Hunter speak or whatever. I think submission needs to be explained fully. Fully agree. Is it just for Christians, or is it in the secular society too? Then we can ask the question, should wife or husband be submissive? One explanation that was given to me of the word submission is when an authority allows the mission of the other individuals, or the authority's mission is allowed to be carried out, and the mission of the other individual is buried so deeply it's not seen. Submission. Ray, yes sir, talk up the things. Making love is definite from just having sex, different from having sex. Drink up a good juice and you're good. I guess she's talking about the sexual things.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Sorry, I have to jump off because I have another conference that I have to go on now. So
thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thanks much,
I look forward to another time with you guys. It was very interesting, and I pray that you guys will have a rest of the night. That is great. All right.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate you being with us. All the very best.
Thanks for having me. All right. Take
Bye-bye
care, guys.
then.
And with this comment, Wayne Campbell said, men have little or no emotional support in the society. The emotionally challenged boy will become an emotionally challenged man. There is a brokenness regarding relationships. Wow,
A
time
few
is
seconds,
out.
Dr. All, just a second. Final
Yes.
comment.
I agree with that final comment. Where do our men find help? The church must step out. Pastors need to recognize that this is a real thing. We need to stop telling people about spirit, because the spirit has told us we must disciple. So we need to start building relationships so we can help our men. Men's meeting, very important. But an understanding that a man can find a safe place with his pastor in the church is a good start.
Awesome, awesome.
Wow.
Thanks to our producer. Thank you, Dr. Barry Hall. Thanks to our producer, Tony K. Bromfield, and to Nissan Williams for technical support. To our special guests, all three, Dr. Barry Hall is still with us, senior pastor at Ecclesium, and our Christian author, Karen Hyatt, and Michelle Hunter, psychosexual therapist who was here earlier. We want to say thank you, gentlemen, all for being with us. We want to have you back. For information on how to get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9597 or download the podcast via our mobile app. Kev.
Listen again next week for another mailbox on your family station, Love 101 FM, program hosted by men with guests who are men. I'm Kevin Bailey.
And I'm Courtney Morrison, pastor. Next week, Monday. Bless you.